Let's head to Knoxville, Tennessee, and talk Tennessee hosting the Georgia Bulldogs. Now, there is nothing really on paper that suggests Tennessee should be capable of winning this game, but I'll go ahead and try to make the case for you, Stephen. If you just ignore all of last week and what took place against the Missouri Bulldogs, they were the number one rushing offense and the number one rushing defense in the conference. They've had a quarterback who has been very good in design runs alongside of that nice, powerful rushing offense. Tennessee is significantly better at home under Josh Heupel. Georgia is coming off a 3-game stretch in which they've been very, very impressive, but also have had to expend a lot of energy destroying Florida and Ole Miss and then battling with Missouri. Tennessee could be very embarrassed and upset with the film that they watched from last week. I assume defensively that those players are not happy with how they tackled or played along the line of scrimmage. Tennessee has a lot of the same things that we said about Ole Miss, that we said about Missouri, that you need to have to try to upset Georgia. The difference with Tennessee and those other teams is that this time that game is on the road for Georgia. If I'm making a case for Joe Milton to play the most perfect game of his career at home against Georgia, it's the rushing attack, it's the pressure-than quarterback of Carson Beck, and it's all happening at home, and it's because you're pissed off about the tape you watched last week of yourself. That and Georgia's maybe the tanks are on getting closer to empty as they get in this tough 4-game stretch here. That is the argument for Tennessee. And Vegas does think that it could be closer than the experts think, because as an expert, I don't think it will be close.
I think your formula is pretty much spot on. That's how I kind of view Tennessee here. Is I think it has to be the home crowd. They've been very good in Knoxville. I mean, the last time they lost a home game was to Georgia back in 2021. And, Tennessee played horrible along the line of scrimmage last week. They struggled to stop third downs. I think they're probably better than that. I mean, to some extent, it was probably a little bit of a moment game for Missouri, considering the revenge factor. And Georgia's
just
road
ask
game,
Eli.
Right. Missouri really wanted that one. Georgia's road games this year at Auburn, at Vanderbilt, in SEC play. They didn't exactly play great in either game. Now they won. That's all that matters. But this Georgia team does seem to be sort of trending up as we go through the season. They're getting healthier along the offensive line. Brock Bowers is back. The rushing attack continues to I think, get better and better every week with Milton and Edwards. So I think for Tennessee to win this game, number one, they've got to play a lot better along the line of scrimmage. Rushing attack, stop the run. They've got to pressure Carson Beck. Because I think if Carson Beck has time to throw, I think he's going to pick apart this Tennessee secondary. Brady Cook did it last week. Carson Beck will do it this week. So you got to be able to get some pressure on him. The home crowd, some kind of like turnovers, defensive touchdowns, something on special teams like Tennessee did against Texas A&M. And they're going to need some Joe Mentum. They need Joe Milton to make a few big plays through the air. Of course, I don't think that Joe Milton is necessarily the problem for Tennessee, but he is going to have to play one of his better games for Tennessee to beat Georgia.
The issue with Joe Milton is that he's not the problem, but he's not the solution. Right. And quit trying to make fetch happen with the Joe Mentum thing. Like, you can't get beat 36-7 and score one touchdown and still have any momentum at all. So it's all gone. But the only way to, you can also use that as a motivating factor. So do I expect Tennessee to be significantly better than they were last week against Missouri? Yes. Do I expect them to be good enough to beat? Because I think the reason Missouri was closer to Georgia than basically anybody else on the road, looking kind of equal to Georgia to some degree, is that Missouri is clearly the third best team in this conference. They are better than everybody else outside of Alabama and Georgia. That's why the committee has them at 9. It's because they're better. And I think the road game for Georgia is a factor. They ran for over 300 yards and over 8 yards a carry against Ole Miss. Tennessee's better than that, and they're at home. I think what's crazy about this Georgia team, because I agree with you, they're kind of finding their stride and the running game's getting better, is that the most consistent piece of this team, and I've said it every single week, is the quarterback.
Bingo.
When called upon, the quarterback has delivered every single time. First quarter against Kentucky, fourth quarter against Auburn, second half against South Carolina, second half, fourth quarter against Missouri, first half against Ole Miss. Doesn't matter. he made the plays. And I don't know why anything would be different in this particular game, especially against a secondary like Tennessee's that is not particularly great. So I think it's very similar to the Missouri game. It's a close first half. It feels like a close-ish game in the third quarter, and then there is like a three drive sequence where like Georgia goes touchdown, interception, touchdown, and all of a sudden we look up and it's like 38-21, and we're going, oh, that was fast.
Wasn't the last game in Neyland sort of close early and Georgia pulled away?
I think Tennessee had a lead like 10-7 or something like that in the first quarter.
It almost like there's a formula for every Georgia game this season, which is Georgia starts slow, the opponent scores, and then, oh, by the way, hey, it's already 38-10, it's 41-17. Because that's just Georgia just finds the Georgia defense like does give up points early on in games. We saw this against Florida, Vanderbilt. We saw it against Ole Miss, but once they settle in, after that, it's over.
It's almost as if Kirby Smart's really good at making defensive adjustments.
Yeah, yeah, and Glenn Schumann doing a good job too as a defensive coordinator there. So I think, to your point, I think the home crowd, Knoxville helps Tennessee, but the formula is going to require a lot of things, and I think Georgia wouldn't necessarily have to play its A game to go on the road and win. So I like Georgia to go up to Knoxville.
They need the Penn State 2 blocked kicks thing to happen the way Penn State beat Ohio State, which is like you get a blocked field goal return for a touchdown and then a blocked extra, like you got a blocked punt for like you need something big, massive momentum swinging to keep the crowd crazy. Then you got to, James Pierce has to be great off the edge. They have to run the football with their 3-headed monster, and Joe Milton has to play a near perfect football game. So I'll take Georgia, lay the points.
Same here. Give me Georgia straight up and also to cover.